Good morning. My name is Bobby Powell. I am the tournament director for the Wyndham Championship. I would like to welcome you, first of all, to Executive Women's Day on behalf of the Wyndham Championship. I also want to welcome everyone to Grand Over Resort. This is a Wyndham Grand property. How cool is that we can have this event here today? For those of you coming in from out of town, I would also like to welcome you to the Piedmont Triad region and the Central Carolina region in general. My job is to get out of the way. So before I do that, I just want to say thank you. This event has gone on a long time, and there are a lot of you who have been supporting this event for a long, long time. So I really want to thank you on behalf of the Wyndham Championship for continuing to support this event. It has morphed into way more than what we started it. And when I saw the lineup and the agenda today, I was really blown away thinking about the very first one we did 10 or 12 years ago. So kudos to Lil, to Cone Health, Leslie, everyone who's put this together. Thank you. And now to kick things off, I would like to bring up Dr. Valerie Leshber. She is the Chief Medical Officer for Cone Health.
Awesome. Thank you, Bobby. And good morning. On behalf of Cone Health, we are proud to be continuing our executive sponsorship of Executive Women's Day. As the System Chief Medical Officer of Cone Health, I am deeply moved to see so many accomplished women come together to champion a cause that touches every corner of our lives: mental health. Mental health is not a separate chapter in the story of our well-being. It is the foundation. It influences how we lead, how we connect, how we cope, and how we thrive. And for women, especially those in leadership roles, the stakes can be even higher. We often carry the weight of our professional responsibilities, our family obligations, our societal expectations, all while navigating the quiet and sometimes invisible struggles within. The truth is, mental health challenges do not discriminate. They affect CEOs and caregivers, entrepreneurs and educators. But what sets us apart is our willingness to speak up, to support one another, and to advocate for change. That's what today is about. This event is not a conversation. This event is a movement to normalize mental health care, to dismantle stigma, and to build systems that support emotional resiliency and psychological safety. This is a call to action for all of us to lead with empathy, to listen with intention, and to invest in the mental health of ourselves and those we serve. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your courage, your leadership, and your commitment to making mental health a priority, not just in policy, but in practice. So let's make today the beginning of something truly transformative. With that, I'll turn it over to Monica Mellinson, the Chief Human Resource Officer of Wyndham Hotels and Resorts.
Thanks for such a kind introduction, Dr. Leshber. On behalf of Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, Travel and Leisure, and our friends at Cone Health, we welcome you and thank you for being here. I'm Monica Melonson, Chief Human Resource Officer for Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. What an incredibly strong group of women, as well as men, who are with us in an amazing show of allyship, who have gathered today thanks to Cone Health's sponsorship and support of today's event and the tournament. Let's give them a round of applause. This conversation is more important today than ever. In the US, 1 in 5 women experience a common mental health challenge or disorder like anxiety or depression. As Dr. Leshber mentioned, as we are all part of a movement, and together we will rise to the challenge and advocate for mental health at home, at work, and beyond. We're going to dig into a lot today, from elite athlete to award-winning journalist, from medical professionals to human resource experts, and most importantly, woman to woman. We're going to take time today to learn how we're all finding ways to advocate for ourselves, for our colleagues, our friends, and our families. We'll learn what resources we can leverage and some good tips to help us to better understand and care for our mental health. We're going to start with an insightful conversation between Lexi Thompson and Zora Stevenson. Lexi Thompson is a world-class professional golfer who has become one of the most recognizable and respectful figures of the LPGA Tour. Turning pro at just 15 years old, she quickly made history as one of the youngest women to ever play to qualify for the U.S. Women's Open, and later became the youngest ever winner of a tournament, of the LPGA tournament at that time. Known for her powerful swing and competitive fire, Thompson has consistently been a force in major championships and international team competitions like the Solheim Cup. Beyond the fairways, Lexi has emerged as a vocal advocate for mental health awareness in sports. She has courageously opened up about the pressures of life on tour, the emotional toll of high expectations, and the importance of prioritizing well-being. Her honesty and vulnerability have helped reshape the conversation around mental health in professional golf, inspiring both fans and fellow athletes to seek balance and support. Lexi Thompson's legacy continues to grow, not just through her athletic achievements, but through her impact as a mental health champion and a role model for the next generation. Interviewing Lexi is Zora Stevenson, an Emmy Award-winning journalist, play-by-play broadcaster, analyst, and host for NBC Sports. Stevenson serves as the play-by-play voice for Peacock's exclusive slate of Big Ten women's basketball, and as a sideline reporter for NBC Sports coverage of Notre Dame football, Big Ten football, and various Olympic sports. She was both the gymnastics and basketball reporter for the 2024 Paris Olympics. With these impressive women, we should expect nothing less today than a spectacular hole-in-one conversation. Without further ado, everyone, please help give a warm welcome to Lexi and Zora.
All right, are we on? Can everyone hear us? Good morning, everyone. Can we bring up the energy? Can everybody say good morning?
Might have been an early morning for everybody.
Right? Well, Lexi got up 6 a.m. just to be here.
Well, flight was at 6 a.m.
Flight at 6 a.m. just to be here
But
with you
happy
all.
to be here. So.
No, we're so thrilled, both of us, to be here. First, I just want to say thank you to Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, to Cone Health. I know there is a golf tournament going on, but to take time out for an important cause such as this, and for us to have not just a conversation, but to really start movement on this, whether it is in your various careers and your workplaces, but also personally. And I think Lexi is the perfect person to have this conversation with. Before we get started, on a personal note, this is my first event back at work after being on maternity leave for 4 months. I just had twins in April, and when Leslie, who helped put on this event, told me that this would be about mental health, I said in my mind, what alignment, right, for this to be my first work event back. And in every season of our lives, mental health is so important, but dealing with two little ones, it is very much so important and at the forefront of my mind, and something that's been so important to me as a mother, but even before that. And Lexi has been so courageous and candid in the way that she's talked about this issue, right? And so I'm so thrilled and excited just to hear your journey and your perseverance with it. I do want to hype Lexi up just a little bit more, though. I mean, right, going professional as a teenager, okay, right? And a major win, a two-time Olympian, and to have all of that going on and still say that this cause is important to speak about publicly, I just want to say thank you, right? Because sometimes it just hears, yeah. It just takes one person sharing their story, and then you feel seen and heard, and maybe it's the breakthrough that you needed. And I know sports is about wins and losses at times, but it really is about stuff like this too, the impact that it could have. We've talked about everything that you've done on the course. I am a firm believer in no one tells your story like you do. So just to set the scene, what do you want this room to know about you? It could be about your career. It could be about just you as a human. What do you want everyone to know before we get started?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everybody, kind of highlights of my career were already said, but I'm so much more to myself. You know, I have two older brothers, very family-oriented, grew up on a golf course, but besides the fact, but I always just grew up around the game, but everything always leaned back to my family. You know, golf has, of course, been my life ever since I was 5 years old. Started tournaments when I was 7, professionally 15, so it's kind of all my life has been. And you know, I decided last year that I've been struggling for multiple years now, and you know, it's just a matter of being able to be open about it and to realize, you know, it's okay to have these struggles, but a matter of surrounding yourself with the right people, which were my family and my team, and just putting myself in that right mind space, and just to be okay with stepping away from a full-time schedule and giving myself the life balance, and that there's just more to life than, you know, my golf game and my score. You know, golf being such an individual sport, you lose so much more than you win, and I think that was always, you know, it's always the hardest part, because you can train and work your butt off as much as you want, but sometimes, most of the time, you don't win. You know, of course, it makes the successes and the wins that much better, because you know of the hard work that you put through, but still doesn't take away, you know, the defeats and how much hard work that you put in. So, you know, just being able to be open about it, you know, with the struggles, and, you know, because everybody just sees what they see on camera and the smiles, and they think it's glamorous, but there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, there's so much I want to unpack there. Just for context, Lexi was on a full-time slate, right? And then towards the end of the season last year, you announced that you were going to restructure the tournaments that you did and just do the tournaments that you felt right to you. Yeah. Right? Okay. And you mentioned some struggles. Would you care to elaborate on when you realized you were struggling, and what were some of those struggles?
Yeah, of course. You know, it's a deep question. Like I said, like I turned pro when I was 15, but I was kind of in the spotlight since I was 12, so it's kind of all I knew. I knew expectations, cameras on me, and everything. But in 2017, it was probably my hardest year. I had kind of a incident that happened in one of my golf tournaments that kind of was very unexpected. It was always a dream of mine to win this event, and I want to say it kind of got taken away from me in a way that in the middle of a tournament round, and I just wasn't expecting it, and it, you know, it hurt a lot. It kind of devastated me. So it's been hard to recover from that, but just throughout the years and just going through day-to-day lives of training and putting yourself out there and, you know, still competing, but, you know, when you don't win and you know that you're grinding and you're putting in all the hard work, it's tough on you sometimes. And then just to be put in front of a camera when you want to cry, but you still have to put a smile on, it's tough. But it's like, that's why I kind of opened up about it. I'm like, because then I would have moments where I would just break down, and I'm like, this isn't healthy for me. You know, I need to have that help, somebody to talk to, or, you know, habits to just help me feel better at night or going through the day. So yeah, it's been a hard battle since that, because it's been, you know, something, you know, if you always strive to accomplish something and it was just taken from you, like right in front of you. So just imagine that. But yeah, kind of ever since then. But that's why I kind of just stepped away from the full-time schedule. Our seasons are about 34 to 35 events a year. And I was playing around 20 to 22-ish. That was my full schedule. That was enough for me. But yeah, I decided last year, I'm like, I need time with my family. I need time with my friends. It's my 15th year. I'm 30. There's more to life. I want to start a family, get married. So I'm like, around 10 events is good, and just to be able to have that balance. So it's put my mind a lot more at ease.
Yeah, you can tell it still affects you. You talked about that being in 2017, and here we are years later. What are some of the steps that you've taken to be able to sit here in front of people, take a deep breath, and vocalize, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe some of the sadness that you experienced, and even deeper than that after that event happened?
Yeah, it's hard, like you said. I mean, even just talking about it today, like I could cry. It's still sad to think about, but it was hard. I mean, I still deal with it day to day, but just a matter of being able to surround myself with the people that love me for genuinely me. But I still have those moments where I just need to take a deep breath, do my meditation, or do some breathing exercises, and really just say those affirmations to myself of how I am as an individual, a person, a partner, and just really get myself in that right mind space and the positives and the gratitude of life.
How do you view crying, like, at this point in your life? Like, I know for me, so just full transparency, right? Like, I cry a good bit, and I used to see it as like something was wrong. Like, I'd almost, you're crying and then you get mad because you're crying. Like, why am I crying?
Same. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm crying.
Right,
like,
right. And then you just unravel.
Yeah.
And I actually, my mom, we used to kind of go back and forth about it, and she said, that's like how you release. And sometimes you're not even crying because you're sad. Maybe you're mad. Like, there could be all these different reasons about it. Have you repurposed how you viewed your release and how you go through your process when you're feeling down?
Yeah, I think it's something that I've gone through over the years. I still cry quite a bit. I think it's just the emotion, like you said, it's a way to release those emotions that you have bottled up inside. And sometimes it's not sadness, sometimes it's joy, sometimes it's frustration, or just anything you deal with it. But if that's how you deal with it, it's okay to let it out. Because, I mean, I've dealt with years keeping it in and hiding it, because I always... when I turned pro at 15, I was like, okay, well, I got to prove myself. I got to show, I'm turning pro at a young age. I can't, show, any weakness. And it's like, it's not weakness. It's just emotion. It's human, and we go through it day to day. Everybody has their struggles. Everybody has their anxieties. And, I dealt with it a lot of years of hiding it. And because I was like, I can't show it. I can't show it because then, people are going to think that they can beat me. And I'm like, it's not true. It's like... And then once I've just been able to realize that it's okay to go through these emotions, I've had so much more respect for myself from peers and people coming up to me and saying thank you, and just for making it out there that we're human, we're not robots, and we have these emotions, and it's unfortunately we're in a public eye, so sometimes it can be a lot more brutal than others.
What role do you think golf in a individual sport plays in some of the things that you've gone through? There's team sports where emotion is how you get riled up, right? It's how you get going. But golf, you can be in a silo, and you talked about doing this, even as a young kid, that loneliness, how do you think golf has aided in that in a way?
I think it's probably one of the hardest parts, being alone all the time. I grew up playing soccer and basketball too, and I loved it. I loved being part of a team, and that's why anytime I'm able to be a part of a team in a golf event, it's like, all right, I got to be on that team, because I want a partner by my side. I want to be able to have somebody to lean on, somebody to rile it up and just have fun out there. But golf being such an individual sport, we're always out there by ourselves. So of course we have our caddy by our side, but sometimes they don't like us either. So so we have to give them grace, because we give them an earful. So but yeah, it's hard because you go through those crazy ups and downs, but meanwhile you're walking off that golf course, you're going to a hotel room alone, you're traveling through the airport alone. I do travel with my dog, thank goodness. So he brings a lot of joy into traveling, and which has been a huge part of through my struggle of mental health and everything. Ever since I've traveled, it might sound ridiculous, but ever since I've traveled with my dog, he's just a little 10-pounder. He has made it so much easier, because no matter what I shoot, he's always happy. So it does make my day. But yeah, it's a very lonely sport. There's just all those moments alone thinking to yourself, and your mind's going crazy. So it's important to just have those positive affirmations to yourself.
Okay, so now you've introduced said dog to the room. We need a dog's name. Like we need some
I wish
info.
I had a picture. His name's Leo. He's a little Havapoo. He's about 10 pounds. So in my free time, I was going to go and go to shelters and just volunteer. And so I went to this pet store in Boca, and I went with my mom, and she's like, "You gotta promise me that you won't walk out with a dog." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." And ended up, I got in this little cubby that they had in the pet store, and they gave me Leo at the time, and with a ladybug toy, and ladybugs are my superstition. So I was like, "Oh, meant to be."
Yeah.
It's meant to be. Where's my checkbook? So ever since then, I got him at 3 months old, and I've traveled with him ever since.
Wow.
Every tournament in the States.
Wow.
So.
And that's been part of your toolkit, is having Leo with you everywhere. Has there been anything else that has helped you overcome this?
Yeah. Of course, he's a big part. But no, seeking help, seeking a lot of people to talk to. I've worked with a lot of psychologists, sports psychologists, life coaches. I've worked with a good amount of people. It's just a matter of finding the right fit and just having somebody to talk to. I mean, even if it's just a friend, just to being able to get those emotions out and how you're feeling and day-to-day stuff. It's important to not have it bottled, and you're not alone. Sometimes I even catch myself shutting down and shutting out people, and I'm like, it's not going to get anywhere. It's not going to get better. Unfortunately, with that, you have to get those emotions out because it's natural.
Yeah. And she just talked about a team. We were talking about how golf is so individual, and Lexi just talked about the team that she has around her, and I think that's so powerful. I'm sure this room would love to hear some advice from you, just from your perspective, right, on how you would charge them to maybe work towards, and I say work towards because we're always working to get better, right? This is a continuum. Like maybe you go to the gym, right? You work on your mental health, right? There's not like an end to working on it, but some ways that maybe you can implement working towards a more positive relationship with your mental health in your day-to-day life. Anything that you want to charge the room with?
Yeah, of course. Well, first off, I just want to say that I'm pretty inspired just to be in this room with women that have done so much, and I'm sure that have worked extremely hard and sacrificed a lot throughout your lives as well. But as anybody, we have our struggles and we have our day-to-day things that we go through that we struggle with. But just to be able to, like I kind of said, surround yourself with the right people, and just to be okay. If you're struggling inside, it's okay to have those emotions. It's natural, and seeking help, seeking somebody to talk to, and it's not a bad thing, and it's not frowned upon, it's not looked down upon, and it's something that I always say that people should do because it's helpful. It's helped me out a lot just to be able to feel better about myself, feel better about my future, and just really have that positive outlook in life. I've gotten a lot of advice of just having that gratitude every day. Wake up, just read a list of things that you're grateful for. It could be the smallest things. It could be grateful I have my family, my dog, a bed to sleep in, just those little things. It just puts your mind at ease and really opens your eyes to, how good you have it and the people you have around you. So
yeah,
I
I actually think this might be a good opportunity. Everybody has a notebook at their table. Can everyone take it and just write down one thing that you're grateful for?
Yeah, because that's something like so we always have scorecards, when we play. So on the back of it, I write affirmations. It could be, I am blessed, I am loved, I love my fans, just be grateful for being out there.
Yeah.
So it's just like little things like that I'll read in between holes.
Yeah.
Even if I have a bad shot, bad hole, I'm like, refocus your mind on something good.
Yeah.
And it just kind of gets my mind in the right space.
What are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful for being here and just being able to meet such incredible women and being part of, this talk and really just bringing it to light. Just another day to be grateful for.
Hold on to what you're writing about. I'll get back to it in a second. Lexi, why was it important to you, or what moved you to want to be open about your story?
I think for me, it was just it was something that I didn't hear a lot of people talking about in the golf world, you know, and I think everybody knows me for the golfer and, you know, great with fans and everything, and it's like, yes, I mean, I love that, you know, having that impact on the game, but I also wanted to let people know, you know, I'm human. Words hurt, you know, I have those emotions, and I've gone through some crazy ups and unfortunately some really low lows. So I just wanted to be open about it and just let people kind of in on a personal side of me, that I'm just not a smiley face sometimes. I have those emotions, I have those raw emotions, and especially to little girls too, you know, like, because I want them to be open with their feelings and, you know, growing up, whether if it's in sports, academics, and everything. So to be able to follow your dreams, but know that life will throw you some curveballs sometimes, but it's just a matter of pushing through with a positive attitude and, you know, getting through it.
Yeah. I want to make sure that if there's any questions out there that we facilitate that. We do have some mics around the room. And if anyone has any questions for Lexi, just raise your hand and then we'll get a mic to you. Oh, yeah, you're quick with it. Right up here in the front. You want to raise your hand one more time? Yeah. We're getting a mic to you. And if you don't mind, just saying what you wrote down that you were grateful for first and then asking your question.
I love it.
So I'm Vanessa Haygood, and I am grateful for the opportunity to experience this and also to share it with friends. The question that I have is whether there has been any movement toward or work on the contractual arrangements that sports figures have to give interviews, sometimes at their most vulnerable moments.
So saying,
So
I understand that
you have to do media.
you
at-
have to do
So-
media after a match,
yep,
and sometimes that is the worst
It-
time.
it's hard, yeah.
But it's a contractual arrangement, I understand.
Yeah, it's tough because it's not, like, we don't have to technically do the interview as soon as we're done, but it is kind of frowned upon if we don't. You know, it's not something like we sign a contract, they have to, you know, we have to give answers right after. You know, it's something that, you know, I've said no to like one or two, and I've gotten a lot of grief for it, unfortunately. But you know, I've also given a lot of interviews with tears in my eyes as well. So it's tough. It's, you know, when you go through heartbreaks, of course the wins, it's great to do an interview. You know, do everything like that. But yeah, when you struggle and you have those heartbreak moments and then they stick a camera in your face and want to ask you a million questions about how it went, I'm like, well, I don't really want to talk about it right now. Just give me a few minutes. But yeah, it's hard, but it's sometimes when I'm going through those moments, I'm like, okay, big picture. I'm like, I was just in an incredible opportunity, and this moment right here is an opportunity to talk to my fans. No other reason. I don't have to answer the questions. I can spin it however I want. So that's kind of big picture how I always try to look at it. Yeah.
Good question. Any other questions for Lexi? Right up here in the front. We'll just wait till we get a mic to you. Right here. Oh. Yeah, keep your hand up. And you can start with too what you're grateful for and then your question to Lexi.
Wow.
I'm putting you on the spot there.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I said I was grateful for AAU track.
Oh.
My oldest daughter is at nationals. I shared with Lexi earlier, so I'm
love
super
that.
grateful for that.
I love that.
But outside of that, you talked about golf being an individualized sport. Where do you find your motivation from if you are not with a team that's high-fiving you and cheering you on, and you have to find that from within? Because track in a lot of ways is an individual sport. So just wanting to translate that to my kids.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something that I feel is asked quite a bit when it comes to golf, because you are alone so much. But golf is such a frustrating sport because it can never be perfected. You know, there's always something to improve on. And I think that's where I kind of find my motivation day in, day out. And I'm like, oh, I can work on this tomorrow. I can improve this tomorrow. or the next day or anything like that. And it doesn't even have to be my golf game. It could be on the mental side of things as well. I could work on trying to be mentally stronger going into a certain shot, or just waking up and being better with my mental kind of just state going into the day. So it can be from the smallest of things to the biggest, but there's always something to improve on, and every day with yourself.
That means so much. Like the best of the best here. Lexi talking about that she still hasn't perfected
Oh, yeah.
it. Golf is so frustrating.
It's so frustrating. I'm not at my best with my game right now, and like it frustrates me so much. But then I'm like, gosh, I just don't like being out there sometimes. And then I'm at night and I'm like, I can work on this tomorrow. Tomorrow's gonna be the day. And like this is like a crazy cycle for my mind right now. But it's always that drive. I think growing up with two older brothers that played golf as well and just trying to beat them, I was like, okay, I'm always competitive. Yeah, always competitive.
Any other questions? Oh yeah, right here. Perfect.
Hi, my name is Lauren, and I'm grateful for my health, the love of my family, and the great support of my company to be here today. I know hindsight is 20/20, but what advice would you give your younger self, thinking back, maybe like an inner child sort of conversation?
My younger self, yeah. I do get that question quite a bit too, but I always say if I can go back and talk to myself when I was younger, 12, 15, whatever it is, just to be easy on myself. Being involved in the game at such a young age, I think I was, always grind, and like pushing myself to be the best. And, of course it got me to the level that I'm at, but at the same time, you have to give yourself the grace, and through those moments if you're struggling, and just not to be, I was always pretty hard on myself. I was not somebody to be like, oh, it's okay. It's like, I was like, all right, I'm going to like, I'm capable of better. But it's like, it wasn't fair to myself. And I think that's why, like right now, like when I'm talking about it throughout the years, it's just important to give yourself grace at those times, and just to be easier on yourself. You're doing your best day in, day out, and putting forth the effort. So having those moments of just being like, okay, human, you're doing your best you can, and that's all you can do.
I think we have time for one more question. If anyone, yeah, right here. Let's just make sure we get the mic.
Hey, I just want to, first of all, say I'm thankful for a wonderful family, for the blessing of being here, and to Cone for inviting me to be here, and to you and Lexi and Zora. You're doing a great job. I have a daughter who's in the military, and what you have said, the struggles she has had, it's lonely, a lot. She's a pilot in the Air Force. And have you thought about how to magnify your message? Because I think there's so many women who are in any stressful job, any arena, that is facing these issues of you really feel like you're on your own, paddling upstream, and I just wish she was here because she would love to be encouraged. And I told her, because as a pilot in the Air Force, you're not supposed to cry, and I've always told her, crying is your superpower. Crying is your release, like you said, and it's so important. So do you have any plans to like write a book, do a blog, do a post, anything to magnify? Because I think there's so many women who have been where you are and are where you have been, that would really benefit from knowing there's others out there that have faced it. Yeah.
Well, first off, tell her thank you for her service, please. I haven't thought too much about writing a book or anything like that, but days like this and the impact that I made with just making my announcement, it kind of opens up my eyes to maybe making a difference in other people's life, just being open about it. And like you said with your daughter, I mean, it's okay to just cry, but like if you're at a leader in your role or just high up in your company, sometimes it's looked as a weakness, but it's not. It's normal, and we go through those struggles and those anxieties, and it's a lot to put your emotions through, your mind through, your heart through. But yeah, I mean, I hope to make a bigger impact just talking about it and really making a difference like today, and just getting it out there that mental health is so important with everybody. Everybody has their struggles, so it's important to be able to talk about it with somebody and to seek the help, and it's okay just to let it out.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody for their questions and being so open. And it's not easy, actually, to get the mic and stand up and ask a question in front of everyone. So we appreciate that, too. And Lexi's been so generous with her time. I'm wondering, do you just want to leave the group? Is there a saying or phrase that helps you each day as we close out this portion of the program?
I would say my two, so I have one always for my fans, which is follow your dreams, and don't let anybody or anything get in the way of that. But other than that, I always say never give up. That's been my motto for my whole life. Never give up, no matter what life throws at you. There's always a day tomorrow to be able to push through, and you can get through it.
I love it. That is a perfect way to end. Lexi Thompson, everyone.
Thank you.
So everyone, enjoy your lunch, and we'll be back in a moment to continue. Thank you. Okay, we're back. We're back. Hope everybody enjoyed their lunch. I just want to give one more round of applause before we move on to this amazing panel that we have for Lexi Thompson and everything that she shared. I think my biggest takeaway from the conversation with Lexi was just empathy. Somebody could be on top of the world, and you just never know what people are going through. So let's hold on to that kindness as we leave today and go about our lives. This conversation here, I think now we're moving towards the actionable piece of this, right? How can we, in our jobs, be better advocates around mental health? And then maybe even as we have multiple doctors up here, right? If you have any tidbits on how we can be better in our own personal lives as we all deal with mental health, right? In a myriad of ways. I want to introduce our panel here. First up, we have Dr. Valerie Leschper. You all heard from her earlier today, Chief Medical Officer at Cone Health. Dr. Leschper, everybody. Dr. Kelly Graves, the CEO, president, and co-founder of the Kellen Foundation. She's also the owner and founder of Kellen PLLC. Dr. Graves. Kim Marshall, who is the Chief Human Resources Officer at Travel and Leisure. Kim, thank you for being here. And then Dr. Jenna Mendelson, who is a psychologist at Cone Health. Thank you for being here. So before we dive into today's topic, I told you all out in the hallway, I thought it would be nice if everyone could just go around and give us a summary of what your job entails, what your goal each day is. Go ahead, Dr. Leschper.
Sounds great. Good afternoon. Thank you guys again for being here. So at Cone Health, as the System Chief Medical Officer, my primary responsibility is around ensuring quality, which means ensuring patient safety, really focusing on the outcomes that lead us to the outcomes that we all expect and desire.
Dr. Graves.
So my main role at the Kellen Foundation is to empower a team to lift up and advocate for community mental health, to set the vision for how community mental health can be different across communities, and in this case in Guilford County, and to increase access for people who typically may not be able to access the care that they need.
Kim.
My role is Chief Human Resources Officer at Travel and Leisure, and my responsibility is to help our company grow. We have a little over 19,000 associates, so it's all about our people strategy and our culture and taking care of our associates.
And I am a psychologist with Cone Health, so I co-direct our evaluation clinic offering psychological evaluations, and I practice cognitive behavioral therapy with teens and adults.
Thank you. Thank you all for detailing that. This first question is for the entire group, and whoever feels led first can answer. But how have you seen attitudes towards mental health evolve in recent years? And in whichever way you've seen that. Does that speak to anyone? wants to go first? Dr. Mendelson?
I feel like there's an increased openness around mental health, and I don't know if perhaps it could be a small silver lining of the shared trauma of the COVID-19 pandemic, where, that was so stressful for so many of us for so many reasons, and we also had a clear external factor to point to that I hope people started to feel a little more comfortable with seeking help for mental health challenges.
Go ahead.
For me, it's probably been, for our company, it's been really an amazing thing to see the last few years, and I do see a big difference post-COVID, and really the workplace conversation around mental health and well-being. We are talking about it a lot, we're focused on it, we have a lot of initiatives in place to continue to do that, and it's just refreshing after many years in business to finally see people really talking about mental health and doing something about it.
I would echo that, and I think also there have been people like Lexi and other athletes and celebrities who have used their voice to speak out on mental health. I think stigma and the hidden pandemic of mental health thrives in silence. So when we don't talk about it, it becomes an even bigger issue. So I think COVID and how people have come forward to speak out more. I've seen a lot of churches do a lot more things, a lot of neighborhoods, businesses, and so as those collective bodies come together, I think that's why we're seeing such an increased focus on mental health.
Anything you want to add? They did great, right?
I know it becomes hard to add anything. The one point I would add is I think the evolution, both generationally but also culturally, in recognizing that mental health is health. It is part of who we are.
And I think that's the perfect way for me to follow up, because at Cone Health, you all have this value-based care model. Can you explain what that is and how mental health fits into that?
Sure. So Cone Health is on a journey of value-based care. Value-based care in a nutshell really just means whole person wellness. Looking to achieve that the actions we take are in service to the outcomes we desire. And that is not just for your disease state, but all the things that make up who you are in your journey to wellness. And so when you think about the component that is mental health, if you don't address the foundation, you're not going to get the outcomes and the disease states that might also occur along the way. People who have diabetes and depression are going to have less well-controlled sugars if their depression is not controlled. You have to address both to get the disease outcomes you want.
So many times you go to the doctor and you see your primary care, right? And if there's an issue, then they recommend you to a specialist, right? And so you have all these specialists, but they don't necessarily work together. But you call and you say that same thing, but the issues, it's my whole body. Like, okay, maybe something's going on in my foot and my hip, but it's my whole body. How do we bridge that gap in healthcare?
So I think organizationally, many of our healthcare systems, and especially at Cone Health, we recognize that it's about the integration of behavioral health services with the care that you seek. And so Cone Health has really done a lot of things to bring forward the telehealth services for behavioral health that many of us can speak to. We have integrated services of behavioral health within primary care settings to narrow the gap between the time of service as well as literally the proximity to the services you need when someone recognizes that mental health is part of that. And so I think one other call out I would do is our behavioral health urgent care. There aren't a lot of those across the country, but Cone Health is very forward thinking and recognizing that the emergency room is not the best place for mental health crises. And seeking the appropriate care in the appropriate setting really helps get the attention you need to achieve those outcomes.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great point, and I'm glad that Cone Health has that, because in certain circumstances, like what number do you call? Where do you go if you're in the middle of a crisis when it comes to mental health? Dr. Mendelson, there is, and we've talked about this connection between physical health and mental health. Is there evidence that backs one or the other? I mean, sometimes I feel anxious and I feel it in my body, but I can't tell, is that actually something I'm feeling physically or is that anxiety? Is there anything medically that backs that up, that the two go hand in hand?
Yes, they very much do go hand in hand. Emotions are physical experiences in a very real sense. I think the example that we probably have the most data on is the fight, flight, or freeze response, where our ancestors in ancient times adapted to have a hormonal release of stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, when facing life-threatening stressors. And it triggered a cascade of physiological responses that helped them to survive. That was adaptive at the time. The trouble is that we still have that response, and that is still helpful in life-threatening situations, but many of the stressors that we face today are not actually life-threatening, fortunately. However, our bodies can't tell the difference between encountering a saber-toothed tiger and having intense thoughts about a meeting with your boss the next day. So many of us spend a lot of time in a stress state with our sympathetic nervous system activated in a way that really isn't that adaptive for us.
Got it. And there was a question that everybody was asked, and everybody on their phones answered it, and it was something to the effect of, okay, what is hindering us from focusing on our mental health? In this room full of powerful women, it was because we're caring for everybody else. So how can we shift that, right, to make sure that we make time for ourselves, and why do you think that that was the overwhelming answer for a room like this?
It's so challenging, I think, in general and especially for women, because we often play many different roles. We have careers, we have relationships, sometimes we have children or family relationships that we're managing. And you add that to the fact that many of us are still enculturated to put others' needs before our own. So you're working against a lot of ingrained and societally reinforced habits in order to put yourself first, and it can really be challenging. And also many of us have many demands on our time as well.
Yeah, I think and this is all easier said than done, it's easy for me to say this, but we cannot pour into everyone else unless we are full. And so sometimes there may be that guilt there of, if I'm not putting everybody else first, I'm not doing my job as whatever role it may be, right? Caregiver, partner, whatever it may be, but you are doing that job by pouring into yourself. Right? By doing what you need to do, you can be a better whatever you need to be. So if you can just hold on to that. Dr. Graves, I want to bring you into the conversation because I think the important part of what you do is in the community, right? What are you noticing when you're out in the community? What is the theme right now, what people are really struggling with?
Yeah, what I see and what we're seeing across the country actually is what Dr. Jenna shared about that cortisol response being kicked in. People are stressed, and the sources of stress vary very broadly, but a lot of individuals are experiencing high levels of stress, and when that cortisol is pumping on a regular basis, it increases the risk to develop a mental health condition. And so, a lot of people don't think about how common it is. So for those that are familiar with North Carolina, adults across North Carolina, just adults, the number of adults that have a diagnosed mental health condition is 3 times the population of Raleigh. And that's just adults and just diagnosed. So people are stressed, and that has significantly increased since COVID. We've seen, lots of different statistics in that arena increase. The other thing we're seeing a lot of increase in, unfortunately, is suicide. Suicide rates have skyrocketed. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among 15 to 19-year-olds. Homicide is third. And so when we think about how common it is, it's not great to think about, but it also is good to know that we're not alone, that people are feeling stress across the board, and when we know it, we are empowered to do something about it, whether that's individually as well as collectively as a community.
People hear those statistics, and a room of good people will say, how can I help? What can I do? So now I look to you for that answer and true advocacy. What does that look like?
Sure. So every single one of us can make a difference, whether it's talking about it. The more we talk about it, the more we address it, the more it can be helpful to empower somebody else to speak up about it. So sharing the information of what you've learned today with your families, with your communities. If you are in a position where you can look at your own companies in terms of, is there health insurance coverage? And then the next layer, is there mental health coverage? Those are often differential. So making sure that you have good mental health coverage, leading with empathy is a huge piece. Being human first. Yes, we're all, executive women. We're rocking it, right? All of us in this room are rocking it. And the people that we're interacting with are people first. And so really making sure that we're leading with empathy, that we're working at a great pace, but also making sure that we pause when we need to and give grace when people need grace to be able to take care of themselves or their families. I think that's critical. Bringing these issues into churches and community centers and increasing access in the community is also critical. So many people, and probably we all know people in this room, wait till you get to the crisis level to get the help you need. Really thinking about how do we take community mental health to the next level to allow access on kind of a prevention and treatment, early treatment, rather than waiting till people get into crisis and they're showing up in the urgent care centers and the emergency rooms, or they attempt their life, right? This is a scary statistic to think about since we're talking about women and girls, statistically, just in this county and across North Carolina overall, but it also holds in this county, almost over 30%, 3 out of 10 girls, high school girls in this county and across North Carolina have not only thought about suicide, but made a plan. Over 30%, 3 out of 10 girls. If that doesn't stop us in our tracks to say we have to collectively wrap our arms around each other and our young girls, I don't know what will. So all of us have to be part of that issue, prioritizing easy access to mental health.
So now I have to ask another question after you planted that statistic. What's something that you found that demographic, teenage girls, that helps? Is it a conversation? Is it something actionable? Like, what have you found really makes a difference so that they don't think or start to plan anything?
The first word that comes to mind.
Oh.
Maybe not. Better? Okay. The first word that comes to mind is connection. We think that we're so better connected with technology, but what we see is the loneliness and the isolation is at its all-time high. So connection, whether that is whatever role you're in, the number one biggest predictor of how well a person will do, even if they're struggling, is do they have a consistent positive figure in their life? One consistent positive figure. That's what decades of research has told us. So if we can help ourselves and our fellow women and our young girls to find that one, that's a huge, huge factor. So connection, authentic connection is critical.
I really appreciate you sharing all of that. Kim, I want to bring you in on the conversation because we all have jobs and careers, and we understand that companies need us to perform in certain ways. So one, what has Travel and Leisure implemented given the struggles of mental health everywhere, right? What have you all done to try to help with that? And in your role as Chief Human Resource Officer, how do you balance the need that there's a job to get done, but you also need to provide grace for people?
You know, that's a great question. For us, we do feel like we have to have a real impact on our associates. Our associates, especially, I should say all of them, but our frontline associates are the ones that are there out there every day with long shifts, difficult guest interactions and situations, and we feel like we've really needed to build programs that work for them too, not just we love our corporate employees too, but how do we make it accessible for people who are in the field working with our guests, but also remote workers and our workers in our call centers. There's high pressure in all these jobs, and with everything going on in the world, we know how difficult it is. We've said, what do we need to do to really move forward in the well-being space? And what we've done is we've designed our well-being programs so that we've got digital access to providers, to counselors, to healthcare providers, digital access, as well as in-person counseling available, and have really provided tools. And we've also trained our leaders to say, leaders, we want you to have meaningful conversations with your associates. Make sure you've got that connection. Make sure you know what's happening so that you can really come alongside them and ensure that we're not just there when there's a crisis. We're there for preventive care. And if we all look at our mental health and look at it in a preventive way, we believe it can really make a difference. And so we appreciate all the partners we have. We've got 24/7 availability through actually we use our Cigna Health Network. We've aligned to have a navigator program that's 24/7 that's available for our teams. And we find that just having the avenues, that we've also got a multilingual approach to it as well, so that we can cover our associates who speak other languages, and have really had to look at it as preventive care. That's what we've done.
And how have you noticed a difference now that those resources are available?
Well, we've really noticed a difference in how associates are reaching out and asking for help and talking about it. And we've tried to make it through our communication efforts, that it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to talk about it and have those conversations. And I think that's made all the difference. And for me personally, I find that even talking to other leaders in the company, they'll let their hair down now and say, hey, I do have an issue I want to talk about, or my family member does. What resources do you have available? And it's just great that people are much more open now. And I think we have a long way to go, but I think we've created an environment where at least people know they need that connection, they know how to get that connection, and they know that we're here to support them as a company and as a workplace. And I think that being up here with all these wonderful healthcare providers, it makes me just realize how important it is in the workplace, because you spend so many hours at your job that we really need to. All companies need to be focused on this and focus on it in a preventive way.
Yeah, prevention seems to be a buzzword among this group. Dr. Leschper, say you don't work at Travel and Leisure, right? And you're not at a company that has resources laid out. What's the best way to advocate for yourself for what you need when it comes to your mental health?
So I think a lot of the themes we've spoken about today, of being self-aware in the first place and knowing that there are resources available to you. Certainly your employer should be a place, and I would encourage each of us who have those levers to be able to, as was called out, evaluate our own offerings to our workforce. But in the event that that's not available, know that there are increasing social services available to you even outside of your workplace. Places like your community gatherings, whether that's church, whether that's your social clubs, whether that's online media groups. There are social media groups that can be healthy. And so I'd encourage you to find those through word of mouth, reaching out from others, and looking at the types of services that are going to be most meaningful for you, and that does require self-reflection. So I think that there are a lot of opportunities that maybe weren't as available. And then even in your own network, being able to be just transparent, be honest, take a break, tell people, I need a minute, I need time. If it's a matter of a camera being put in your face, or just being able to say, this meeting's not going well, I need to take a few minutes and step away. People will give you the grace. Even if afterwards there's things you will answer, if it's better for your mental health, take the time for yourself, because you owe it to yourself first.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to give the group, Dr. Mendelson, I'm going to bring you back into the conversation, some actionable items, not just for their employees, but for themselves. What are a couple tidbits and a couple pieces of advice that you can offer based on your expertise of how we can just manage day-to-day stressors better?
I think, going back to the point that you made earlier about the idea of the connection between our physical and our emotional experiences, I guess some good news there is that there are a lot of kind of pretty basic self-care steps that we can take to just arrive in the world in a more regulated way. And it's really simple things like just trying to make sure you're getting enough sleep, making sure you're getting a good quality of sleep. You would be surprised how many people I see who are struggling with depression or anxiety, and it turns out they have an undiagnosed sleep disorder. Sleep has a massive effect on our overall well-being and our general physiological regulation. Exercise, again, just another really simple tip, 30 minutes a day of anything that gets your heart rate up 5 days a week has been well documented to reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety. And of course, reaching out for help if you need it, making sure you have that social connection, those people that you can talk to, be it through your employer or reaching out to a friend or calling a family member. Connection, going back to Dr. Graves' point, is key in managing our mental health.
Is there any research behind simply getting fresh air or, and this one is very specific, but I had someone tell me this one time, changing of temperature. So have you ever advised someone to, like, and this sounds nuts, I know, but like putting your head in the freezer? Like just to change their body temperature. You're nodding, so I know I'm not off here. Can you tell these women how this could like actually help them if they are feeling down or really anxious about something?
Yeah.
Just changing their body temperature.
Yes, yes, you're onto something. So to the first point, yes, being out in nature is another factor that is well documented in promoting a variety of mental health benefits. It's great for each of us to strive to get outside, weather permitting, for some period of time, most days a week. And yes, this idea of changing temperature can be a really helpful strategy. There's a maybe slightly lesser known strategy from a modality of therapy called dialectical behavior therapy, where you activate the dive reflex. Look this up, don't go off of what I'm saying right now, but I think basically you put your face in ice water for 30 seconds, and it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So it takes you out of that sympathetic nervous system where you got the stress hormones going, and in a very fast
Well, now
way.
you're worried about the fact that you're freezing instead of what else you were worried about. Yeah.
Right, now you got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Go ahead, yeah.
So since we have, the Wyndham here, if any athletes in the room, when you have an injury, what's the first thing they do?
Ice.
They ice it. Well, we've been talking about how the mind and the body are so closely connected. There is a lot of research that shows, and if you don't want to put your face in ice, if you want something a little bit less, there's a good bit of research that shows that at the end of or beginning or end of your shower, if you turn it on cooler water for about 2 minutes, it changes the cortisol levels in your body. So that is one strategy if you don't want to go all ice. Just to change, a cooler shower can also have some similar effects.
She just said 2 minutes. 2 minutes of ice cold water.
It actually becomes nice.
Yeah, no, I bet. Do you have anything you want to add?
Probably for me, from a work perspective, I think it's kind of two things. It's making sure that we're normalizing the conversations that we're having with each other. And you know how you'll see people in the hallway and you'll just be like, how you doing? And it's very superficial. It's kind of going down to another level and saying, how are you really doing? And making sure you're able to have the conversations and open up those possibilities of what might be going on. I think that's one big one. And another one for me that's really actionable would be really modeling boundaries, where you're saying, okay, I'm really going to take lunch. I'm not going to just work through lunch. I'm really going to, as a leader, I'm really going to leave at a decent hour. I'm really going to do some things, take a walk take a walk outside, model those boundaries and model those behaviors that other people will then be like, okay, it's okay. It's okay to take a mental health day. It's okay to take some time and model those behaviors. I think those are probably two big things.
Yeah, that is great. And I'll get to you, Dr. Graves, but the power of saying no is something that just nod. If you've had to work on saying no because you feel like maybe that opportunity is not gonna come back, you feel like it's your one chance, especially as powerful women, saying no is hard. And so I want to charge this room to continue to work on that. Dr. Graves.
I wasn't planning to say this, but just to piggyback off of that, I had a moment about 10 years ago and realized that even if you think you're bad at saying no, every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to a lot of other things. You're saying no to better sleep. You're saying no to having time to go to the gym, but you're saying no to kid time. You're saying no to date night. Like all those different things you say no to with every yes. So that has helped me to rephrase, what am I saying no to every time I say yes, to challenge myself. But the other thing I would say around that is, as I think especially as women, we're kind of often taught and trained to keep on the mask, to make sure it's all looking good all the time. And so as leaders, I think that's one actionable step, is to risk vulnerability, to kind of peel back the mask sometimes, to be your authentic self, to say, you know what, I'm not having a great day today, I'm gonna take some time, and just really peeling that off. Because I think a lot of isolation comes from looking around and thinking everybody else has it together. I'm the only one that's struggling here. And so peeling back that mask, I think, can be really a game changer, not only for your work environment, but for your family and for you, because you can be more authentically you. And being okay with who you are. There's a huge push for women to be all the things, and just that message of you are enough just like you are. You don't have to, hit it out of the park every single time. You don't have to win every tournament or every championship, and that's okay. You still are valuable. You are, authentic. You are your amazing self, and the more we can push those as actionable items among women in our society, I think the stronger we will be mentally.
Yeah, affirmations are so powerful. We're going to have a considerable amount of time for questions, so I want you to all start thinking about what questions you want to ask the panel. Before we get to that, though, I have something that I'd love for all of you to answer if it moves you, is a myth about this topic, about mental health, that we need to do away with. Anything out there that you feel like is talked about that maybe should not be? Kim, you want to go first?
I would probably just say that mental health is a crisis. There we go. I would say that a myth buster would be that mental health is only in crisis. And I think sometimes people have that thought process rather than it's really a way of being. It's a well-being, way of a mindset and a way that we should look at it. So.
Yeah. Any other myth? Go ahead, Dr. Mendelsohn.
Piggybacking off of that, the idea that you need to wait until it feels like a crisis to seek help. I think, in what we were talking about a little bit ago about prevention, the idea of getting into a good, healthy habit and a good routine with self-care can mean going to therapy maybe before you feel like you're completely in an emotional crisis. And then from that position, you may be in a better place to make lasting strides preventatively.
I actually had the similar take, is that we're trying really hard to shift the narrative from mental health being just, until you get crisis mode, to how do we as a collective community build mental wealth, and think about how we shift the narrative that mental health is for everybody. With mental health, it's kind of like the one area that we don't check on regularly if we think about it. We get our physicals, we get our teeth cleaned, we even get our oil changed more often than we check under our own hood, right? So like thinking about how do we build our own mental wealth and really building from there.
The theme I would add is the myth around that mental health is a siloed compartment. That it belongs over there, that it needs to be part of going to see the psychologist instead of talking to your cardiologist about it. Mental health is part, again, of what wellness is, and it continually finds its way in the threads of everything in your life. And so whether it's disease state, whether it's celebrations, whether it's about sleep, there are ways to find and check in with yourself as well as those you talk with. In healthcare, we have many healthcare screenings that can feel like a checkbox if you don't take the moment to understand. There's a reason people are asking about how you sleep, how healthy your relationships are. That has to do with your medical compliance for then the prescriptions that you are taking for, again, those chronic diseases. And so letting yourself be vulnerable, somebody spoke earlier, is part of just being really willing to talk about how you're feeling as a component of how your diseases are going as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Do we have any questions for this group as we continue the conversation? Anybody have any questions? This table's, all the way in the back. Yeah. Raise your hand one more time so we can get the mic to you. Don't say the question just yet. Okay. Go ahead.
I'll repeat it if you need to. Tips for parents or caregivers on how to develop resilience and self-confidence in children. I think it's
Ooh.
very young.
Yeah. Tips for parents on how to develop resiliency in our young ones. Whew. Everybody's nodding, so everybody, go ahead.
So much I could say on that one. Is it on or not?
Okay, there we go. Number one is, how is the parent doing? There are studies upon studies that show that children's brain development is largely dictated by their surroundings. So how is the parent approaching parenting? And from the sense that is the parent regulated? Are they able to come to a space that is more intentional versus being on a fight, flight, freeze response themselves? So for us, collectively, we look at the whole family. So helping to build children's abilities to manage stress, does start early, and it also is often mirrored in terms of how are the people around me handling stress and beginning to copy those. So one recommendation we always make is using that whole family approach and thinking about how is the caregiver regulating as well, because they begin to mirror those. Teaching children how to recognize emotions in their bodies. A lot of times kids react and respond because they don't have words yet to understand like what's going on. What am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? What are the strategies that I can try and use? You mentioned it earlier that a lot of times people develop coping mechanisms in stressful environments that are very effective at that time. They keep them safe. Fighting, for example, that might keep them safe if they're in a dangerous situation. But what happens very often is they use those same coping mechanisms in different settings that not only don't work, but create more problems. So instead of the blaming perspective for children and adults, thinking about how do we shift your strategies and what strategies might work for you, and having those discussions is critical so that they know how to move in different environments and use different coping skills in different places. We can't all put our face in an ice bath right now, for example, right? But in this environment, what are some things that we can do if we're feeling overwhelmed or tense? So
I think you covered it, but also I think touching off of what you already said, but the idea of making it an open conversation with your kids, even using developmentally appropriate language, but to let your kids know what it is that you do as a parent to regulate yourself, or sometimes even verbalizing like, wow, my heart is racing and I'm feeling really nervous right now. I'm gonna take some deep breaths and I think that'll help me get calm, and then I can help you with whatever it is that you're asking me for help with. So modeling that, even involving your kids where it's appropriate and where it doesn't detract from the benefits for you. So for example, I really enjoy having just a mindful minute out on my porch, and it's great to have my kids there with me, and I might kind of narrate some things I'm seeing, and then they tell me what they're seeing, and we get to share that together. So having some of those mindfulness or relaxation exercises that you can do with your child to sort of lead the way and showing them how to do it can also be a really great way to give them some strategies for when things get tough.
the other thing that I would add is that bringing mental health supports to where children already are is a huge opportunity. Think of like schools, for example. Being able to bring mental health supports into schools is critical. And that is, one of the things that's continuing to grow across the country. Bringing supports into child care facilities and to other locations to have mental health specialists that can work with children where they are as well. The last thing I would add is oftentimes we talk about how to address the negatives. But what the research tells us across the country is it's not just about addressing mental health, but also building that mental wealth. What are the positive things that your child can get involved in? Where can they build connections? Maybe it's sports, maybe it's not sports, maybe it's Girl Scouts, maybe it's 4-H, maybe it's, a youth group. But also, just as important from the research is addressing the negatives in terms of what's wrong, what are they struggling with, is building and intentionally looking for opportunities where they feel like they fit, that they're included and they're connected.
Any other questions? Yes, right here. Do we have, I think a mic is coming, so just hold out for a second.
Good afternoon. My name is Felicia Abraham, and I just have a question for the panel. Just curious, as you look back, as you've progressed through your career, what kinds of things would you say you do differently to better tend to your mental health?
I think that's a great question, so thank you for that. For me, it has really been, we spoke about the role of mentors, recognizing that a mentor wasn't just for a professional career growth, but they were also there for my personal benefit, that your mentors and coaches have a vested interest in you as a person. And then in my career trajectory, realizing that I share that obligation to do that for others. I think all of us as executives likely have women who look up to us, whether or not we recognize that, and taking both the formal and informal opportunities to reach out to those who are in their own journeys, to encourage, to inspire, to check in, to just let them know that you're there and that you're an advocate for them in whatever way it can be.
for me is having a network. I have 5 really good friends who do exactly what I do, and I've kept up with them for the past 20-something years. And we connect on a regular basis, and we laugh a lot, and we talk about the hard things we get to do and the fun things we get to do. And it's just, they really get it. So that's been great for me.
That comes back to that community and connection, right? Dr. Mendelson, anything?
I think for me, it's been really important to have a good routine of things that I do first thing in the morning. I noticed in graduate school, I always had a lot on my plate, and I had a habit of trying to sort of list it all out in my head all the time. And as you can imagine, this was a recipe for stress. So I found that when I started actually meditating in the morning, and just doing things like that, that set my mind in a good place and started me out in a good way for the day, that's really been key, and that's something I've carried forward from that time.
My suggestion would be, I love all of these. My journey was a little bit different, and the suggestion that I would make is take a moment to figure out what you truly want to do in your career. I think oftentimes, especially as women, do this next, and now do this, and climb the ladder, and then do this and this, and you end up in a great position, but does it make you happy? Is it something that you love? And thinking through, if I could go back, I would have paused and really reflected, what is it that I truly want to do? Not, all the things that I'm supposed to do, and, how to be successful from the public standpoint, and really thinking about what it is that feeds you and feeds your soul, and spending more time early on in that journey, and really thinking about what fills your cup.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Yes, all in the back.
So we've talked about how to model for our kids, but I actually have a question about if you have a loved one, whether it's a parent, a spouse, a friend, an employee, someone you care about that comes to you and says, I'm struggling and I don't even know where to start. How can we, as the people who care for them, help them take those first steps to get the help that they need?
I would say hear them, first of all. Take time to recognize that as an outreach and stop. Even if it's in a casual situation, stop, because someone's giving you an olive branch. Not an olive branch, but a flag, a chance to intervene in a moment. And it's not up to you to try to solve that problem. It's up to you to receive that they're reaching out. And so I think from that standpoint, recognizing that in the moment, whatever it might be, we have an opportunity to hear them, let them be heard, let them be seen, and assess. From that point, is this something that they're just having a bad day and want to vent about it? And that's okay. Thank goodness that you were there to give them a chance to vent. Is this something that's been brewing for a while and they're really looking for help? Do you know resources? There is a chance to help. And sometimes it's a matter of just saying, I don't know what I can do for you right now, but I know that we can find help. And then reaching out to others in that trustful, safe space. Because again, not knowing the circumstance of what it might be, just knowing that it could be anything in that realm, and until they tell you more, you just have to take the space and appreciate that they reached out. And then later thank them for it. Thank them for trusting you.
That's great guidance. And just to add on a little bit, among the symptoms of many mental health challenges are executive functioning challenges, difficulty initiating, organizing, and acting on tasks that we want to complete. And so you can see how that might make it hard for someone struggling with depression, for example, to take the first steps toward scheduling an appointment. So if you have a loved one who's reached out to you for help and has expressed an interest in taking those steps, you could help them by looking up providers, maybe getting some names, maybe even making the phone call on their behalf, helping them figure out the transportation. Just helping them with some of those logistics might have a meaningful impact in terms of getting them the help that they need.
If I could also add, I was inspired thinking about you and your comments there. There's actually a model that we use in healthcare at Cone Health, but also in other industries, and it's called CUSS, C-U-S-S, and it really is a hallmark of the culture of safety. And culture of safety is part of that taking a moment and stopping. The C stands for concerned. And it's something that both we learn to recognize when somebody comes to us, but also something we encourage our employees, whether they're frontline clinicians or technology people who are turning the systems on and off for us while we sleep. Concerned is one of those first words in an escalation to be able to say, there's something going on here. The U stands for uncomfortable. If somebody says, I am uncomfortable with fill in the blank, this situation, with the environment, it's another way for you to pause. The S is, the first S is related to there is a safety issue. And so safety issue in this case, can be more severe, but the last S is stop. And that's where I actually went to when I was answering your question. But stop is really just, we have to take a moment here. And it can be anything in those lines. And so just recognizing that when people reach out to you, part of it is receiving it, but also giving other people those chance to recognize your call for help.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Any final questions? I want to make sure everybody gets an opportunity. Just like I asked Lexi at the end, I'm wondering, is there a phrase that each of you stand by that helps you in your day-to-day? A phrase, an acronym, a word that when you need it is always in the back of your mind. And I'm continuing to talk to give you a moment to think of it. Go ahead.
I don't know if I have a word, so I hope this answers your question, but just whenever I remember to just putting my shoulders down and taking a deep breath, and sometimes I'll even set reminders in my phone to do that because it just kind of to reset in a moment. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I tend to do.
That does. Kim, you have anything?
For me, it would be intentional care, remembering to care intentionally each day, because I think that we all care, but about each other, about what we do, about the associates we work with. But I think just telling myself that it's time to make sure each day it's intentional, very intentional.
Dr. Graves?
I would say courageous and legacy. Thinking about like the things that we do every day, some of it is really hard. And it takes courage to like try something new, something out of the box, something that others might even scoff at. But like this is something I'm supposed to try. So courage and courageousness, I would say. And then I've always been very focused on like, how do I make a difference, not just now, but for future generations? And so those are the two words that come to mind for me.
Being a huge fan of Brene Brown, I think authenticity and vulnerability are the two things that ground me every day. Realizing that who I am is enough, and vulnerability means it's not always going to be what you expect, but this is who I am.
Those were all great, and I appreciate you all for sharing, and I appreciate everybody for asking their questions. My one thing that I actually have it right on my wrist right here, is keep it going. It's actually a poem, if you want to look it up. And it's a poem my grandmother used to recite, and I have it on my right wrist, so that no matter what I'm going through, I just keep going. And that's what I just want to leave you all with today, is no matter what is going on in your life, we just keep taking one foot in front of the other, and we keep it going. And the summary of this conversation, I think, to the prevention that we talked about, I think the word boundaries was so paramount from Kim. And then talking about saying no is actually saying yes to different parts of our lives. And the best for last is that, well, it's okay to cuss. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for an amazing, amazing day. We have one last Mentimeter question, so make sure you answer that. And Monica is going to come up to wrap everything up. Thank you again.
Well, ladies, and any of the gentlemen that are still with us as allies, I have one word: wow. What an amazing, fantastic day we've had together, and I cannot believe it has yet come to an end so quickly. We do have one other item that I'd like to share, but before I do, I want to thank every one of the powerful and very impressionable individuals that were part of not only the fireside chat that we had with Lexi and Zora, but this awesome panel of incredible executive women who have helped us to lean in, understand, and embrace our mental health better. So let's give them a round of applause. And I was tasked to give one particular thing I was going to walk away with. And I'm not sure who tasked me to give one, because I just started writing and the pen would not stop. But I want to share just a few of those. Not only show empathy, but supercharge my empathy. I want to wrap my arms around more women, because I already feel like I wrap my arms around some, and seek to make more lasting connections. I want to find that one, not just today, but every single day. How do we shift our narrative from mental health to mental wealth? I want to be more mentally wealthy than I am otherwise. You are enough just as you are. Every one of you say that to yourselves every day. Don't wait until it feels like a crisis to ask for help. And then the last one, I think, were those two parting words: vulnerability and authenticity. So thank you all, wherever I glean that little nugget from, because I'm taking those forward every day. And with that, those who know me will know that I have a huge passion for giving back to the community. And today, after this event, we're going to do just that. To tell us about that activity, we have Heather Michael, who's going to come. She's the executive director with Forsyth Backpack Program. She's going to tell us all about that activity.
Hello, thank you all for having us here. As she said, I'm Heather Bolt-Michael. I am the Executive Director for Forsyth Backpack Program located in Winston-Salem. And our mission is to fight hunger by giving children weekend and long break backpacks full of food, so giving them those meals. So in addition, I want to tie it together a little bit. In addition to promoting and supporting mental health, Wyndham Rewards also supports children in fighting food hunger and food insecurity. We know that mental health issues start with children, start when we are young, and thinking about your next meal, or thinking about if you're going to get that meal, is something that we don't want our children to go through. We don't want to give them that anxiety. So today, because of Wyndham Rewards' generosity, we are inviting you all to join us in the hallway. I believe it's outside of these doors. I may be turned around. Outside of the doors, to help us build 1,600 bags, which results in 6,400 meals. So we are packing 6,400 meals today to be given to our students in Forsyth County. Our children return to school in just 2 short weeks, so all of the meals that you see today will be packed and given to those students. So thank you all for helping us do that. We'd love to have you. Our team will be in bright orange shirts, so feel free to ask questions and just jump onto the assembly line. Thanks.
So with that, that is the conclusion of Executives Women's Day. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here with us. And if you don't have to scurry away back to work, there's a little bit of mental health wellness out there, packing some backpacks. Let's give back to this community, and anyone who can join us, we appreciate your help. Thanks, everybody. Have an awesome rest of the day.